All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and man, that boy Dan Quinn getting creative now, man. The Washington Commanders are apparently switching to a new, insane practice format after that embarrassing loss to the Patriots. Dan Quinn was like, no way, this is how we're about to go into this season looking like. So I can't wait to dive into that and break all of that down for you, because it's something I've never seen in my years of being a burgundy and gold fan as a way of practicing. So I'm super excited, man. It kind of reminds me of what my Georgia Bulldogs do a little bit. We're going to get into that. I also have a big time injury update. Like, no, now we know, like, officially exactly what Laramie Tunsil hurt. And we're going to talk about how concerned Dan Quinn is for that. But Dan Quinn did use the word concerned for another group of the team as far as injuries and chemistry go. We're going to dive into all that and more. But before we do, make sure you stiff on that like button, stiff on the subscription button, and stiff on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Appreciate y'all. And of course, I will have y'all updated on every single practice. That practice that we're talking about in this video is going to go down later on today. I'm recording this at 3 a.m. Tuesday, August 12th. Later on today, that practice will happen. I can't wait to break down exactly how it's going to go. But of course, after the practice, I will break down exactly how it went. We're still going to do position group by position group, but we may get a little bit more creative with how I break the practice down, since the practice itself is more creative. Also, make sure you pull up August 24th to the live Commanders Kings show in Virginia, Crystal City Sports Pub. Go get your tickets, because they're really getting close to running out. And just to let you know, the link to get those tickets is in the description of this video, of every video, since we announced it like weeks ago. So make sure you go check that out. Go get your tickets. So without further ado, let's go dive into the video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, let's just go ahead and get the bad news out of the way first. Let's do some injury updates, because some of these are some bad news. Like when asked about the level of concern with Marcus Mariota, he said, quote, "He's getting closer, but he's not there yet," unquote. So apparently Marcus Mariota isn't doing too bad. Marcus Mariota is apparently dealing with some sort of a lower leg injury that we don't exactly know what it is, but it's some type of lower leg injury. I remember hearing something that it may be some type of sprain. I don't know. But either way, he's able to practice at times, but they don't really want him doing a lot of team drill stuff. That's why he didn't travel to New England at all for the joint practice nor the preseason game. But whenever we practice in Ashburn, he's there. He just, he may do some individual drill stuff, but once we get into 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s, he usually sits that out. And he was thrown to the side field yesterday, but he hasn't participated with the team much in camp at all. And again, he didn't travel to New England at all either. But then when asked about Marcus Mariota, he was like, "I'm not really concerned about that." But then he did switch his his concerned eyes towards the offensive line meshing because of the injuries that they're dealing with. Of course, Samuel Cosmi still out, torn ACL, recovering from that from January from the Detroit Lions win. And then Brandon Coleman still currently out as well with whatever injury that he's dealing with. Dan Quinn keeps playing it down. He keeps saying Samuel Cosmi is hitting all of the markers, and if anything, he may be, he may come back healthier sooner than we originally thought. And then with Brandon Coleman, Dan Quinn just keeps downplaying it and acting like it's nothing serious, even though the guy didn't travel at all to go to New England. With Marcus Mariota, it's more so like he's recovering and they're just trying to slowly ramp him up. They don't want him doing too much. With Brandon Coleman, he recently got hurt right before the joint practice with the Patriots. So that's why I'm a little concerned there, but he keeps acting like it's nothing to really worry about. But the thing that he is worried about is the chemistry and the meshing between the offensive linemen with all of the rotational. I mean, we're having to rotate so many different guys. Like Andrew Wiley has gone from our starting right tackle to occasionally, when Laramie Tunsil has had a vet day off, our starting left tackle in training camp practices. And then now with Brandon Coleman gone, Andrew Wiley's your starting left guard. So like this musical chairs of offensive linemen that we're playing right now, let alone the fact that Samuel Cosmi hasn't practiced all offseason ever since we traded for Laramie Tunsil and drafted Josh Connolly. Like, he has never practiced with those guys, not once yet. So our offensive line does have some rawness to it, even though it's very talented. I think on paper, top 5 offensive line in the NFL. But like I've always said, man, I am concerned about this offensive line early on in the season, because you can put 5 Pro Bowlers on a team on the same offensive line, but if they've never played together, don't expect them to go out there and ball out immediately. It's going to take some time, man. The more cohesive the offensive line, even if it's just a bunch of average Joes, if they're all on the same page, they know each other like the back of each other's hands. They know each other's weaknesses and strengths, and they've played together around each other for a very long time. They're going to outproduce and block better than the team with just 5 vigilantes on it. 5 dominant vigilantes. You can have as many superheroes as you want, but if they don't have any chemistry and they're not able to mesh together, it's not going to be a perfect product. There may be some random, defenses are going to recognize that. Like, these guys get paid millions of dollars. These defensive coordinators, these defensive coaches, and these defensive players, they're going to recognize you don't have that chemistry yet, so they're going to throw a bunch of stunts and twists at you. They're going to do delayed blitzes from linebackers and DBs just to see if y'all have exactly whose role and whose responsibilities are for certain things. They're going to try to attack you in those weak areas. So again, you can have 5 Pro Bowlers on your offensive line all you want, but if they haven't had a lot of time together, expect some mistakes to happen. But luckily, we have a Jaden Daniels that when in doubt things go wrong, he can make some things shake with his legs. But I would love it for the offensive line to be as close to having some sort of chemistry together by the time we get to week 1. But it's not very likely to happen because who knows, Samuel Cosmi may not even be ready by week 1. We may start him on like the PUP list or something, short-term IR, and he has to miss the first 4 weeks. Then he comes in week 5, and now we got to reset that chemistry with Tyler Biadasz to his left, and especially Josh Connolly to his right, who he hasn't practiced with yet. But Dan Quinn even said that it can impact the non-verbal cues that result from working together a while and having good cohesion. I'm telling you right now, this offensive line thing, probably one of my biggest concerns going into the season. Again, I feel like on paper, top 5 offensive line. I think once the chemistry does finally settle in and we have all 5 of our starters out there, we're going to be good to go. And I'm pretty optimistic that at some point we will, and it could probably last a long time, because Samuel Cosmi's injury was a freak accident. It was like some other player ran into the back of his leg. This wasn't like an injury proneness type of moment. I think Brian Robinson ran in for a touchdown, and I think like another Commanders player ended up falling on Samuel Cosmi's leg as we're doing like the push to get Brian Robinson into the end zone. It was just a freak accident. So I don't really see that being something that like we can predict or assume will happen again. I don't think Samuel Cosmi is necessarily like an injury prone player. Brandon Coleman seems to be injury prone in the offseason. This is not his second offseason where he's missing extensive time. But at the same time, I believe last year, I don't remember him missing a game. So he just seems to be the type of guy that maybe he's just banged up, and he's the type of banged up to where in the offseason it may not be worth playing him, but then maybe he's that same level of banged up in the regular season. He just plays through it. I don't know, but either way, I feel like eventually we will have a cohesive starting 5 offensive line as long as Tyler Biadasz doesn't have to miss. I think he missed like 2 games last year, so that wasn't anything crazy, even though I don't like Michael Dieter having to step in. So I'm not really worried about our health long term, but we do got to get this chemistry down as soon as possible. Please, man, we have a franchise quarterback out here to protect. But then Dan Quinn also added that throughout the season, pretty much every offensive line endures injuries, so it's good to get used to other guys. So that's kind of the silver lining to this, that since we do have these injuries early on in the offseason, a lot of these guys are getting a chance to go out there and practice at a higher level than they probably normally would throughout this season. Nick Allegretti and Andrew Wiley were starters for us last year, but we're not expecting them to be starters when our offensive line is fully healthy this year. But they're still getting starting level snaps, reps, and practice time and training camp and stuff like that, and that's going to go a long way, especially even just chemistry. Going back to the chemistry thing, if we do have an injury, we have Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti, who have been our starting offensive linemen for a lot of this training camp, so they'll be able to step in and immediately have chemistry with guys like Josh Connolly or Laramie Tunsil all the way on the left side, because they've been practicing with these guys all off season. So, at the silver lining to this, at least the injuries are like we're getting them out the way early. So that, and now these backups have chemistry with some of the starters. So if there is an injury at some point in the regular season or the postseason, we have guys that are, okay, it's not like I've never blocked next to Josh Connolly before. As a starting right guard, as far as like Nick Allegretti goes, it's not like me as an Andrew Wiley hasn't stepped in at left guard before because Brandon Coleman got hurt and I've blocked next to Laramie Tunsil and to the left of Tyler Biadasz. So there is a silver lining here, even though it's not necessarily ideal. And then also, Laramie Tunsil, who had to exit practice early 2 days ago, Dan Quinn was asked about it. He said that he did end up working today, well, as in yesterday, Monday, August 11th, but it was just a jog through practice. So it's like how much, no matter how hurt he was, it was a jog through. So kind of anybody could have participated. That's not necessarily saying much about how much he's recovered or how like much we can downplay the injury, not worry about it. But then he said he will likely practice even Tuesday when they have the burgundy and gold scrimmage. Again, we're going to dive into that later. I'm super excited to break that up and break that all the way down. So there you go. He officially has been listed as a groin injury, and Dan Quinn said that he doesn't seem to be concerned and said that Tunsil will do some work later on today, as in Tuesday, August 12th, in this very creative and weird, unique practice that they're about to do. And shouts out to the fact that we have 10 days in between our Patriots preseason game and the Bengals one. That's the only reason we're even able to do this interesting format. We're going to get into that soon, just have a couple of more injury updates. But David Harrison let us know that Laremy Tunsil left practice with a groin injury just a couple of days ago, and Dan Quinn gave the same answer that he does with all injuries. They're going to take it as it comes and not rush anything. He ended up doing some stuff again yesterday, as in Monday, August 11th, but not necessarily everything when they went through the jog through. If he does everything Tuesday, August 12th with this really creative practice, then it really is a non-issue. But if he doesn't, just be aware, because I am a little scared, I'm not gonna lie, because groin injuries always seem to linger. I don't know what it is, but like hamstrings, groin injuries, those seem to be the nagging ones that even after a player says they're all right, even after a coach says, don't worry about it, it seems to be something that we still have to continue to worry about and affects the player for weeks, like going on. So I don't know. Hopefully this groin injury really is a non-issue. Again, we'll find out. I'll definitely have y'all updated on that after today, later on today's practice, Tuesday, August 12th. And then you even have this clip right here uploaded by Scott Abraham. And this is a clip of Laremy Tunsil. He said, good to see Laremy Tunsil out here at practice. This was yesterday because, of course, he left practice 2 days ago. Dan Quinn said that Tunsil will likely participate in today's, Tuesday, August 12th, burgundy and gold scrimmage. So it's good to see that Laremy Tunsil looks all right. And it doesn't look like he has any noticeable limp necessarily to me. But who knows, man? Things can get a little weird and stuff like that. We'll see. But now to dive into the really creative practice and the insane thing that the Commanders are doing and why I love it so much, man. So Dan Quinn announced yesterday, like Monday, August 11th, that he has broken the team up into 2 different teams. There is a burgundy team and a gold team, and that includes even the players and the coaches. They had a jog through Monday, August 11th with already knowing who's on what team, and then they officially have what you would consider a game later on today, Tuesday, August 12th, aka like a scrimmage, and I'm super excited about that, man. They split the team into, again, that's players, that's coaches, that's even the strength coaches. Like, this is competitive from every single level. Again, the 2 sides, you have burgundy versus gold. They'll play a game, and sometimes they're going to simulate like second quarter with a chance for those, end of half game situations. So it's going to be some 2-minute offense type of scenarios. It's not just going to be a regular game. They're going to go through certain scenarios as well. And I love it, man. And so, again, just to remind you, that 10-day gap between that Patriots preseason game on the 8th and the Bengals one on the 18th, and we don't have a joint practice in between, is the only reason we even had this window. So shouts out to Dan Quinn for thinking on his feet, like, wait a minute, we have a 10-day gap in between. We played a pretty early preseason game last week, and then we play a pretty late one this week, and there's no joint practice in the middle. We can actually get a little creative here. We could do something that I don't think Dan Quinn has ever done. I don't remember the burgundy and gold ever doing this in my lifetime of being a fan. I'm pretty sure some other team in the NFL has done this at some point, but I don't remember us doing it. So I'm really excited about this. Again, Dan Quinn basically said, hey, this is a weird opportunity, so let's take advantage of it and do something weird that could be extremely productive for us. I love it. And Dan Quinn emphasized how this allows them to continue building on leadership and test out situations, of course. I'm super excited. He also said the thought of the intra-squad scrimmage when he saw the preseason schedule, he had like a week plus gap, and also wants to look at other possible play callers on the staff and mentions a succession plan. That's really interesting. So it's not just the players. It's not just to call them out, because yes, that Patriots game was very embarrassing. Our second stringers didn't look too good. Our third stringers looked worse than their third stringers. Our fourth stringers looked worse than their fourth stringers at times and things like that. So he's like, all right, I'm going to challenge y'all. How about we go against each other and I'm going to make it competitive? We're going to have a mix of starters and backups on both teams, and this is going to be a competitive thing that probably lasts multiple days, because, again, they went through warm-ups yesterday, Monday, August 11th, with the teams already in mind. I'm going to show y'all a clip a little later where, like, Mike Samver still was already having a little bit of fun with it, and Jaden Daniels and Deebo Samuel were, like, on the other team, and they were having some fun back, so I'll show y'all that later, but it's already, like, a certain competitive, like, these are my guys versus your guys to it, and, again, the fact that they're Kingsbury even coaches involved in things like that. And then on top of that, even outside of the fact that, all right, we need to challenge each other, we need to switch something up, because there's no way we look that bad again in this upcoming preseason game against the Bengals, or ever again, just ever. Hopefully we never look that bad in any situation, preseason, regular season, or postseason. But even on top of that, Dan Quinn talked about a succession plan to where, okay, so Cliff Kingsbury is on one team, who's going to be the offensive play caller on the other team? So that's an opportunity for a guy like Brian Johnson to step up and, you know, really show his offensive coordinating prowess or stuff like that. So I love that, man. Defensive coordinator wise, all kinds of stuff. This is going to get really interesting and creative, man. It's time for guys to really step up. Who's going to be the defensive play caller outside of Joe Wood Jr.? Maybe Ken Norton Jr., our linebackers coach. I'm really interested in seeing how this goes. Also, Podfather brought up an interesting suggestion. He said, I love this idea, but can I please make a suggestion? Can we please have Jalen Lane on Jaden's team so we can really get a good chance to basically see how good Jalen Lane actually is? Because if he's out there with a backup quarterback like he was in that preseason game where he played like 14 to 18 snaps or somewhere around there in the teens, but it was hardly noticeable because the one time he was targeted, Sam Hartman overthrew him. And I haven't gone back to look at the all 22, but I just refuse to believe that Jalen Lane wasn't open on other routes and just wasn't targeted by Sam Hartman. So he just never really got a chance to show what he could do. But every time he's out there with Jaden Daniels in training camp, he seems to be balling. He looks like one of the best receivers on the team. Honestly, this training camp, Deebo Samuel and Jalen Lane have been our two best receivers all throughout these practices, like in totality overall. Because even like a guy like Ja'Cory Brooks has been making plays and having one-handed touchdowns and things like that, catches from Jaden Daniels. But then he has his inconsistent moments where he's dropping wide open passes for no reason. Jalen Lane and Deebo Samuel have been the best overall and most consistent wide receivers, and that's because Jaden Daniels has been throwing on the ball. He's been out there with the starting offense going against the starting defense. Like, he's having good days against Mike Sanderstill and Marshawn Lattimore and Trenavian Amos. As soon as he goes out there in the preseason game against Patriots backups, but because Sam Hartman was his quarterback and he played so poorly, we didn't get to see none of Jalen Lane. So please, I agree with Podfather over there at the Burgundy Zone. Please have him out there with Jaden Daniels. Matter of fact, I'll extend it. How about Jaden Daniels just be the all-time quarterback? How about that? Let him quarterback for both starting teams, so every starting offense and starting opposing defense or whatever, they all have like as much competitive possibilities as possible. You know what I'm saying? I don't want Sam Hartman ruining things for Jalen Lane again or any other wide receiver. I want Jaden Daniels to be the all-time quarterback if you ask me. That's just me personally. But again, like I already foreshadowed earlier, they're already having a lot of fun with it, man. In this clip uploaded by Scott Abraham, you have Mike Sanderstill, who's on the gold team, and he tried to infiltrate the burgundy team during their stretch period. And he was pushed away by Deebo Samuel and Jaden Daniels like, hey, man, you got to get up out of here. You know what I'm saying? This ain't your team. This ain't your business. Go back on the other side of that field. That's you over there. And it looks like it's like a burgundy team that's like mostly wearing burgundy, and it sounds like the gold team is mostly wearing white from like the little clips I've seen so far. But I just love the fact that, you know, can they please put out two separate depth charts for the teams, man? That would be so hard if we actually got to know depth chart wise who's on team burgundy, who's on team gold. I think that would be so hard. Even if it's like an imaginary, don't read too much into it, depth chart, you know what I'm saying? I would just love to know who's on what. I mean, of course, granted, as this practice goes down later on today, we'll see kind of for the most part who's on what's team, like who's throwing to who's covering who's blocking who's on the defensive line, but all that type of stuff. We'll just kind of pick up on it as we're seeing the clips and we're getting the updates from the reporters that are at the practice. But I would love like some unofficial depth chart, just something silly. Like, it doesn't even have to be taken very seriously. I just want to see what Dan Quinn put together as far as the teams go. So even like leading into the practice, I can be hyped. Like, well, I'm rooting for, you know, team burgundy, or I'm rooting for team gold or something like that. But I love the fact that the players are already into it. I mean, the fact that Deebo Samuel and Jaden Daniels had to kick Mike Sanderstill out of their side of the field, because nah, man, you with them gold people over there, man, get from around here. So I love that. I love the fact that they're just so fully involved and just completely committed to the whole thing, and I absolutely love it, man. I love how fun this team is. I love how creative Dan Quinn is. I love the fact that this team bought into it so quickly. You know what I'm saying? Even just through a walkthrough, just a jog through practice, they're already starting to build up that I'm on my side, you're on your side. Can't wait to compete against each other. each other. So I'm really interested in how this practice is going to actually go down later on today, because I think it's going to be really fun, and I think it's going to be really competitive as well. It's not just starters versus starters. It's going to be a mix of both, and you're going to have some team pride for burgundy, you're going to have some team pride for gold, and I think they're going to truly go at it with each other, and I think that's going to make us better long term, especially leading up to this Bengals game, where even some of our starters should be playing in this Bengals game. I'm not exactly sure if Jaden Daniels is going to play, and if he does, it may not be a lot, but I think some starters will play for a pretty significant amount of time against the Bengals. This will be the game. This upcoming preseason game is going to be the time where our starters actually play in the preseason. I don't think any will play at all in the third preseason game. I think even less starters, like guys like Trenavian Amos and Josh Connolly, who played in the first preseason game, I don't think they play in the third one. I think it's going to be pure backups, guys fighting for a roster spot to make that final 53-man roster. So that Ravens preseason game, I want to go ahead and warn y'all right now, that's going to be even more backup-y than the Patriots preseason game. Even though we have a joint practice with the Ravens, so you'll see the starters a lot in that joint practice, but that preseason game against the Ravens, But the Bengals preseason game, we're actually going to go out there with our starters, and I think it's going to be our starters versus their starters for a pretty significant time. You're going to have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins versus Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Sanderstill, Trenavian Amos. I think that's really interesting. Now, granted, they don't have Trey Hendrickson back, but they finally do have Shamar Stewart. Can't wait to see what Josh Connolly looks like matched up against him. So that's going to be really interesting in itself. But, before getting too far ahead of ourselves, because again, that's not till August 18th, I can't wait to see what happens in this August 12th practice, man. I can't wait to see what type of clips and news and information comes from that, because I'm pretty sure they're going to push each other to be better. And that's also going to be great for the guys that are like backups, because again, instead of it being starters versus starters, there's going to be backups sprinkled in to, be able to form entire teams on both sides. And so that means that some of these backups are going to get some meaningful snaps against starters from the opposite position group. I think that's going to be really meaningful. I think that's going to make our backups better. I think that's going to make everybody more competitive towards each other. I think it's just going to be a beautiful experience. And then lastly, before we get up out of here, training camp hype has officially moved to Carolina. Shouts out to Hogs Haven for tweeting that, because he retweeted the fact that Bryson Tremaine had 2 big catches with the second team offense during team drills with the Carolina Panthers. I just wanted to let y'all know that Bryson Tremaine is doing the same thing to the Carolina Panthers that he used to do to us, where he's making these amazing catches in practice, and then when we get to the preseason game, he's dropping stuff, and then we get to the regular season, he doesn't make the team. I just thought that was interesting, just to throw that random news out there. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed videos. Please stiff on that like button, stiff on the subscription button, and stiff on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this. So make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Please let me know how you feel about everything discussed in the video. If you made it this far in the video, you're still watching me, you're still hearing me, really appreciate you personally. Salute to you. Thank you. Make sure you leave a like on the way out. And of course, let me know how you feel about the injury situation we have going on right now. Let me know how you feel about this potential creative practice that Dan Quinn is doing. Very innovative. I'm super excited. Let me know if you're as excited as I am, or am I just too overly excited over something that doesn't mean that much. Let me know how y'all feel about everything and about the extensive possibilities of how this could go, because I could rant on about this forever. I could just imagine Jalen. We already know Mike Sanderstill is not on the same team as Deebo Samuel and Jaden Daniels, but who is? You know what I'm saying? Who's on Mike Sanderstill's side? Does he have Trenavian Amos, but is Marshawn Lattimore on the Deebo Samuel Jaden Daniels side? Offensive line versus defensive line. How's that gonna? I'm super excited. I can't wait. So of course I will have that full breakdown of everything that went down in that practice later on today after the practice happens. So stay tuned for that. Again, leave a like on the way out. I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.